again, this is EL121, the short story and essay writing, and this is session 3 of the series of sessions on the short story. Today's session corresponds to Unit 3 in your book. Let me tell you how I intend to cover this part. We're going to divide this part into 3 sections. The first section will lay the theoretical foundation of the unit or the session, where we're going to talk about what the plot means, its different elements and components. We'll talk about the conflict and how important it is for the for the plot. We'll talk about certain techniques that are used by writers in developing the plot, like the suspense, for example, flashback and stuff like that. Let's go together to page 59. When you go all the way to page 59, you have Unit 3, like I said. The focus in this unit is on the plot. When you go to page 59, you have the mirror of the unit. Let's read it together and see how we can handle that together. So again, page 59, focus, Unit 3, focus on plot. So you have background information, the role of plot in fiction, what is the plot of a story, different plot styles, and the conflict as an essential element of the plot. And then we move to the featured reading of the unit. We have 2 short stories this time around. We have After 20 Years by O. Henry, and we also have A Letter from Gaza by Ghassan Kanafani. And of course, after we finish every and each one of them, we will have discussions and debates on what they mean and how they mean what they mean. And of course, if the unit is about the plot, we'll explore the plot, the aspects of the plot in the 2 short stories. And After 20 Years, we'll be focusing more on what kind of plot it is. We'll talk about surprise ending plots. With Ghassan Kanafani, we'll focus our attention more on conflicts, the different kinds of conflicts, and how conflicts are delineated and crafted. Ghassan Kanafani is known for his intricate and complex plots. We'll talk about the different kinds of plots that we have in A Letter from Gaza. And then finally, you have a rounding up section where new terms are introduced. The new terms that have been discussed in the unit are introduced. And then questions that remind you of what has happened in the unit. And then some kind of previewing for the next unit. Let's go all the way to the unit. So like I said, this unit is about plot, and the reading for today, or for this session, is actually 2 short stories we have today. We have we have After 20 Years by O. Henry, and A Letter from Gaza by Ghassan Kanafani. Let's first of all start with the role of plot in fiction. Whether it is possible to have a story or a short story without a plot. Yeah, of course. You can, people can write whatever they want to write, but still, it won't be. It would be a fantastic and interesting, short story, a story that does not have a plot. This is going to be strange in itself, because normally, if you have a short story, you have to have a plot. The plot is I want you to think of a human being having flesh without the skeleton or the structure. So you first of all start with the skeleton, and then you flesh it out with flesh and okay. So it's very important that you start with the skeleton, and the skeleton for a short story would be the plot. So the plot is the arrangement of events in a plot and how they are arranged. You can simply get to know about the plot when you ask the simple question, what is happening, okay, what happens in this short story, okay. So when you ask this question is going to trigger a lot of ideas, and it's going to bring in a whole a host of like events and incidents, and this is actually what makes the plot. Okay, so again, you cannot have a short story without a plot. Like we said, a plot. What makes the plot is based on the idea of conflict and problems. Okay, so the plot is proceeds and goes on and gets developed through the problems that the characters face in a short story. Whenever you have a problem, and the character has to grapple with this problem, has to find a solution for it, you are in for complication of the plot. So you need to have problems, and problems are typical of short stories, and they are also typical of life. And think of the problems that we have, our characters, and the different short stories that we have dealt with so far. Think of the problems that they have dealt with, and how important they were in the development and the progression of plots. Think of, for example, of Jack and the Beanstalk. And problems you can always ask these questions in order to get to know about the problems. Will Jack find wealth? In Jack and the Beanstalk, one of the problems of Jack was the fact that he was poor, and his family and his mother especially depends entirely on him. Will he find wealth, and how? And this complicates the situation, because he has to resort to bad practices in order to acquire and gain wealth. And then when he meets the ogre, we ask this question. He has gone so many times to the mansion or the house of the ogre. Will he meet him, and what will happen when they meet? Obviously, this is a complication. When they meet, it's going to be difficult for both of them, for the one who steals and the one who gets stolen. And then you move, for example, to the other short story, to build a fire. And you ask, we have big problems in this short story, if you still remember. The big problem, or the biggest of all the problems, would be whether this, the unnamed persona or character of the short story, the nameless man who decides to go it alone in the Alaskan desert. The biggest problem would be whether he would survive this freezing. Whether would he make it eventually and catch up with his friends, or is he going to die? These are also problems. When you, for example, go to A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury and see how problems arise for Achilles because of his fearfulness, and also because of his the fact that he's not trained as how to like hunt dinosaurs. I mean, the whole atmosphere is complicated. I mean, the idea of going all the way back to the past was beyond him, and this is also a problem that is meant to, and is also bound to help us get further ideas about the plot and how it gets complicated. So answering these questions involve the plot of a short story. Let's now talk about the structure of the plot in a short story. At one point, if you still remember, when this was like session 1, we spoke about the traditional model of a short story and how short stories are modeled. And we said whenever we talk about short stories, the easy answer would be the traditional model, where you have an exposition and then rising action and then a climax and then a falling action and finally resolution. This is actually the traditional model, and I remember vividly that we also spoke about those who challenge this model on the grounds that it's not very realistic, and we spoke about Anton Chekhov and the fact that he opposes this model, and he believes that this is not this is not what life goes. Again, but this is one of the examples. This is one of the actually we have more than one model, when it comes to plot styles. You have the traditional model, like I told you. You have the exposition. If you move to page 61, you will have some kind of diagram where you're going to find the different parts of the or the different stages of a plot diagrammed. So you have, like I said, exposition, and then rising action, followed by a climax, and then falling action, and finally the resolution. We're going to take them one at a time. We're going to start with the exposition. The exposition is the first stage of any plot development. Even before the plot develops, you have the exposition. Exposition is some kind of introduction where the writer of the short story introduces the character. I wouldn't say characters. Remember, we agreed on the fact that you don't have so many characters in a short story. So in an exposition, the protagonist, the main character, is introduced. You have also his antagonist, his or her, of course, antagonist, and then you have the setting. The conditions and circumstances against which the short story will start. And you also have, hints about the theme and the ideas that the short story will address. And then after that you have the rising action, and by rising action we mean that before the end of the exposition, the writer of the short story makes sure that there is what we call an inciting incident, an incident that can provoke an insight, that can trigger further action and further events. Okay, and this actually the inciting accident or incident marks the beginning of the rising action. The rising action is where is the place where the conflicts and problems arise, and characters are set against each other. Each one of them is trying to win a war. They obviously it doesn't have to be a war, a physical war. You have to have bombs and weapons. And if two people are fighting over something, but this is like a metaphorical war, as it were. Like I said, and this is the things get complicated, and this is featured in the rising action stage or part of the short story. And then when things get complicated, we arrive at or reach the climax. The climax is also known as the turning point, where events and incidents intensify and they reach this extent, this heating point, where things are discovered. Truth about characters are exposed, and characters are known for what they are, for example. And then the climax is normally followed by the falling action stage, where things starts to ease and tensions are getting resolved, with one of the two sides starting to, the signs of victory and the signals of victory are looming on the horizon for one of the two warring or two fighting parties. And then you have the resolution, where all the disentanglements are coming to an end. The resolution is normally meant to for the tension to finally come to an end, for the problem to get resolved. If we're talking about happy kinds of short stories and work so far, you normally, and this is the equivalent of romantic comedies in drama, like you're going to see in your in your drama courses. You normally have if you have a romantic comedy, you normally a romantic comedy ends with happy endings, where the characters are no conflicts. The conflict is resolved once and for all, and the characters are rewarded normally by getting married and living happily ever after. Sometimes you have resolutions where the conflicts gets resolved, but the character, for example, gets killed or taken to prison, and this is normally tragic. You can have, like I said, with resolutions, you can have happy endings, and you can also have tragic endings, depending on what kind of short story you have, and what it also depends on what the writer intends his short story to end. What we're going to do now is we're going to apply the elements of the traditional short story model to the short stories that we have taken so far. We can start with Jack and the Beanstalk. Let's talk about the exposition in Jack and the Beanstalk. If you still remember, the exposition in Jack and the Beanstalk introduces Jack, the protagonist, to us, and we get to know about him. We have information about him, and the fact that he supports his the fact that he lives with his mother, and they have like a cow that gives them milk, okay, and we get to know about the fact that he is poor, and his mother depends on the cow and on Jack for her livelihood and support. Okay, let me read the I have the first part of the of the short story. And again, and like I said, it gives you, it is the exposition in Jack and the Beanstalk. If you go all the way to page 61, actually this is going to give you a clear idea about the exposition in a short story. Let me read it out loud to you and then talk about it. So if you, like I said, page 61, middle of the page. So there was, I'm reading this part from the introduction or the exposition of the short story. There was once upon a time a poor widow who had an only son named Jack and a cow named Milky White, and all they had to live on was the milk the cow gave every morning, which they carried to the market and sold. Okay, in very explicit terms, this sums up the entire idea of the exposition. You have two things. You have the characters. I mean, we are introduced to the characters. You have Jack, okay, and we have his mother, and we get to know that they also have Milky White, their cow, and the fact that they depend entirely on it for their for support, for livelihood. And we are also given, I mean, there's some and we get to know, it's not very explicitly mentioned, but you can, as a reader, you can tell that they are very poor if they depend for their livelihood, and if they depend entirely on a cow, it means that they are poor. Okay, and we get to know the fact that they decided to carry the market. They carried the the cow to the market in order to sell it, and this is the complication that we are in for. Why would they do that? This is a question that will be answered in the following paragraphs as you proceed and you read. This is the exposition, and then after, in order for us to move from the exposition to the rising action, you have to have what we call the inciting incident, and the inciting incident here would be the fact that the cow does not give any more milk, and the decision that the family has taken, which is the fact that they decided to get rid of the cow by selling it, and this is going to trigger a lot of incidents and events. The fact that the mother will trust her son with the idea of selling the cow, and on the way, and as we proceed, you know what happens, and the fact that he meets the old man and he gives him magic beans in exchange of the cow, and what happens and the complications that ensue. So again, the inciting action or the inciting incident would be that the cow stops giving milk, and the ensuing decision of the family to sell it off. And then you move to the rising action, and the rising action is normally, in traditional short story, it takes a long time because you meet and you encounter so many incidents in this part. And this, in the rising action part, you in the short story Jack and the Beanstalk, you have Jack walking to the market, and meeting the old man, and they started this um, um, what seems what seemed at the time as a stupid transaction, where the boy takes the magic beans in exchange of the cow, and then he goes back or goes all the way back to his mother with the magic beans, and the fact that she gets angry with him, and she starts to like shout and call him idiot and things, and she even prevents him from eating his dinner and dismisses him to his bedroom, and the fact that she throws the beans out of the window, and then the next morning they grow up into a magic, into a beanstalk, and then Jack starts to like explore the what happens when he climbs up the beanstalk, and when he arrives at the top, he sees the mansion of the ogre and decides to go there, and these are all incidents that are part of the rising action section of the plot. And then we move to the climax. Actually, the climax is, or the highest point of the action, or the turning point, is when Jack, after so many visits to the house or the mansion of the ogre, they get to know of the presence of each other. The ogre gets to know that Jack is there, and Jack is also is there in the house while the ogre was there. And this is the climax, because what happens afterwards is the real turning point. Let me tell you how Jack or how the ogre gets to know about Jack's presence in the house. This was when Jack tried to like snatch and steal the magic harp of the ogre. The harp very weirdly and very strangely shouts out to its owner, to the ogre, and this is how the ogre gets to know about it. And then you have the falling action. The falling action is normally is very it doesn't take long in short stories. It's not as long as the rising action. The falling action in this section is when Jack, having known that he is now exposed, and the ogre knows all about him, he climbs down the beanstalk, and when he arrives home, he chops down the beanstalk, and the ogre gets killed because he falls off of it. And this is the falling action. And then the resolution is happy for Jack and tragic, of course, for the antagonist, the ogre. Jack gets married to a princess, and he lives obviously happily ever after, while the ogre gets killed because he fell off the falling beanstalk, and he dies. This is the story. This is the plot of the short story and its different stages and how it developed. You can apply the same thing to the other two short stories. I'm sure it would be easy for you to apply them. So whenever you have a short story, you need to after having read it, you need to decide what kind of what kind of plot it has, whether it has a traditional plot, or surprise ending plot, or whether the plot is episodic. For these are the different kinds of plots that we normally have. For more on that, for more on the different kinds of for more on the traditional kind of plot, you may want to go to pages 62 and 63, where you have diagrams of these traditional kinds of plots, and you also have some kind of application. The different stages are, as I can see here, you have to build a fire is also there, and you also have the different kinds of the different stages of the traditional plot applied to it. Let me tell you something about different plot styles. So we start with the episodic. Like I said, we spoke before about traditional plots, the traditional model of plot, and then you have what we call the episodic plot. And by episodic, we mean a plot is normally made up of a number of episodes, or and the only link between them is that the fact that the episodes are all or involve one character or set of characters. This is the only link between them. Other than that, the different plots don't or the different set of episodes don't follow from each other. Their arrangement is not causal. It doesn't. It means that they don't. One episode does not lead to the other one, and this is typical of ancient stories, the stories of Heracles, and even part of the Arabian Nights. Okay, you can have sometimes you have many stories featuring the same character, but they are the episodes are different and they talk about different things. And then after that, you have the surprise ending plots, and this is the surprise ending plots is simply when you have a certain conclusion or end in mind based on the progression of events in a short story, only to find that it doesn't go the way you think it should go. The end is surprising to you. The end does not depend or is not based on what you have been promised all through. Okay, you think of the action to be heading in a certain direction, only to get surprised as a reader towards the end that it didn't go the way you expected it. And so the writer in a surprise ending plot defies the expectations of the reader, and this is kind of challenging to the reader, and this is also meant by the writer sometimes in order to it's meant we normally take things for granted. The writer in a surprise ending plot wants to challenge you so that you don't take the short story for granted. You can be always on your you need to keep your guard off. If you know, for example, that O. Henry is known for this kind of plot, so you don't take his short story for granted. You read it while you're awake, you're alert, because you know that you can always think you know that it doesn't I mean the events do not lead to the expected conclusion. So you can come up with so many scenarios. Would it end this way? Would it end that way? It makes you awake and alert while reading, giving different possibilities and scenarios. Um, and you also ask why is the writer doing this? Why it didn't happen as it should have? Okay, this is like I said, this is the surprise ending plots, and this is like I said, is typical of O. Henry, as we're going to see in the second part of this session. We'll talk about O. Henry and his surprise ending plots in After 20 Years. Let's now move to another interesting part about plots, which is the idea of conflicts. And conflicts are very important. If you go all the way to page 65, you will have something about conflicts. We said that this is also what we said in session 1 when we had this overview about the different components of or characteristics of the short story. We said that at the core of every plot there has to be a conflict. A conflict is a struggle or a challenge or a problem, if you like, a struggle between if you have a struggle or a problem or a challenge, this entails the fact that you have different forces. So you have forces fighting against each other and over something. These forces can have the struggle that these forces engage in can be a struggle. You can have a struggle against nature. You can have a struggle against another person. You can have a struggle against society, and finally, you can have a struggle between different ideas or elements within an individual, within a person. But these are the different kinds of conflicts that we give them other names. We say that you can have like a conflict between two humans, human versus human. You can have a conflict or a struggle between human being and nature. You can have a struggle between human and him or herself. And you can have a struggle between a person or a human or an individual and his society. These are the different conflicts that we have. As you might have noticed, some of these conflicts are in external. External, it means that outside outside the character. It can be the character and another force outside himself, and this other force can be another human being, can be nature, it can be the society. Okay, but this is what we call the external conflict, and we also have what we call internal conflict. An internal conflict involves a struggle or a problem within the mind and the soul of the character or the person himself. So this is why we are saying it is internal. You can, like I said, you can't have a plot without a conflict, and that's why conflicts are all over the place. We have them all in the different short stories that we have taken and the short stories that we are in for. If you go to Jack and the Beanstalk, for example, you'll have the conflict, so many conflicts, and you can have you have the conflict between, the major conflict would be between the forces of evil represented by the ogre and the forces of good as represented by Jack, the innocent Jack. You also have a conflict between Jack's worldview and his mother's worldview. Remember, Jack, for his mother, Jack, or to his mother, Jack is innocent, is idiot. He doesn't have much experience. He sells the cow for magic beans, and this is a kind of crazy for his mother. So you have this struggle between these, our conflict between the worldly views of an experienced adult, the mother, and an innocent child here, Jack. You also have the conflict within Jack himself. It's not very clear, but it's not very clear that he is having or experiencing this internal conflict every time he wakes up, or he climbs up the tree and goes to the mansion of the ogre and steals stuff. We're not sure that he is having banks of conscience, and that he is whether he is with a clear conscience, or he blames himself before he goes to sleep, for example, like normal human beings do. We're not sure about that. If he does that, this is going to be the internal conflict that we meet. If we move to another short story, the other short story would be to build a fire, and in this short story you have also the external conflict, the conflict between man and nature. Nature here is the freezing cold in Alaska, and out of this conflict we have questions whether the man will eventually make it or not. Will he survive this cold weather or not? This is the major conflict between man and nature. And of course, when we talk about this, we give it it can have universal overtones, this eternal struggle between man and nature, and how man is just, according to some commentators and critics, is just a plaything in the hands of nature. And then you have the conflict between also the man, and this nameless man, and between his worldview and the worldview of the old man who advised him. So obviously the worldview of this of the nameless man is based on inexperience, the fact that he lacks experience, while the other person is obviously has the experience, and that's why he advised him against going it alone, and the fact that he has to wait until it becomes less cold, and all these pieces of advice that he has given to the man, but obviously he wouldn't listen. This is another external conflict. And you also have the conflict, the internal conflict within the soul and mind of this nameless man, whether to wait or go it alone, and his decision to eventually go it alone, and what happens to him at the end. And then finally you have a sound of thunder, where you also have the conflict, external conflicts, the external conflict between the past and the present. I remember that Akils and the other guys are on a tour into the past, and this is the conflict between the past and the present. You also have the conflict, the external conflict between Akil and Travis, the tour leader. This is man against man, or individual against individual conflict. The fact that Travis wants to always keep Achilles in line and in check. Otherwise, he may be making mistakes, and mistakes in this case would be very disastrous. And you also have the conflict within the soul and mind of Achilles himself, the fact that he the fact that I mean he is he hesitates and wavers whether he can hunt the dinosaur or not, and eventually he decides against that out of fear, of course. And you know, of course, what happens when he steps back and treads and stamps a butterfly, and what happens when he does that. Actually, this is yeah, this is basically it. With this item, we come to the end of part 1 of session 3. Thank you, and goodbye.